Welcome to the Gospel according to Kinison, and I am your illustrious host. I am your man, Bill Kinison, and first I want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. My brother Sam used to have a saying, and I'm sure he didn't originate it because it's been around a long time, that always love your mother because you'll never have another. And I've always remembered that. Always love your mother because you'll never have another. And I had a beautiful, talented mother.
Happy Mother's Day, Sandra Skurzik from Boston.
Happy Mother's Day to Sandra.
Marcy from California.
Happy Mother's Day to Marcy.
And of course, Jack Friedman saying
Happy Mother. Oh, wait a minute. No, not Jack. All right. To Marcy. Marcy Friedman. I'm going to wish happy Mother's Day.
And her birthday's today.
Oh, today? I haven't had a chance to check.
And Ben Wheeler from Utah. Happy birthday yesterday.
Birthday to him. Yes, it was this week.
John Lutz.
John Lutz. I don't think it was his birthday or anything else. So
Scott Higgins. Good morning.
All right.
Jeff Martin. Good morning.
Jeff Martin. I got a great story with Jeff Martin.
Gary Witt from Oklahoma.
Okay, well, forget Jeff Martin.
Well, no, tell your story.
Well, no, I coached hockey, and they told me that Jeff was not a very coachable young man. He was a boy then, wasn't very coachable, and so I asked for him to be on my team, and he ended up being one of my best players, one of the best defensemen in the league, and I fell in love with him and his mom and dad. And that just goes to show people guess wrong. They guess wrong.
Thank you, Paul Henderson. Happy Mother's Day.
Okay, Paul Henderson. We want to remember he and his family. He sent a private message, and Sherry, it was almost unbelievable.
Yep.
The loss that he has went through and his family has went through, what they're going through now. And I want everyone to sincerely hold Paul Henderson and his family up in prayer. But God bless you, Paul. Good to have you here this morning.
Dana Thomas from Alaska. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to Dana.
Catherine Grossman.
Happy Mother's Day to Catherine Grossman.
Don and Cheryl Morin.
All right. Well, to Cheryl, I wish a happy Mother's Day. And I'm sure Don was wrapped up watching that Kentucky Derby this week because they are in partnership with several horses. So he loves it. And I got to admit, your illustrious preacher has went to the races, and I have gambled with Don, and I have won. I have won with Don, so he's one of my favorite people. Now I'd like to talk about my mother, Marie Kinison, Marnie, and I look back and it's amazing. She's a little lady, but somehow she was able to corral Sam, me, Richard, Kevin, having 4 boys. And funny, amazing thing about her, she don't get enough credit, but we lived in the church. I've told that before. We moved up out of the projects and into the church my dad and mom pastored. And it seemed like every day, but it was quite often, she would make us come down and practice singing. And out of that, all 4 of us could sing. Sam actually could play the piano and play the guitar that he taught himself. Kevin could play the drums. Rich, even when he was severely handicapped, one thing the kid could do, he could sing. And I think that's because of my mother. And she transitioned over to the next level in 1995, but I still miss her. I'd love to have one more time to wrap her up in my arms and wish her a happy Mother's Day. Also, I want to wish happy Mother's Day to my beautiful wife, Sherry, and to my daughter, Ginger. But Sherry, and I'm not even teasing when I say this, I shot way over my head with Sherry.
No.
And somehow I convinced her to marry me, and that's been 49 years ago. This August. Was it 50? No, 49 years ago this August. And best thing ever happened to me. And I guess you could say she mothered me, but she brought a beautiful daughter into this world that is a fantastic individual filled with love and always doing stuff for other people just like her mother. And I want to wish the two of them a very, very happy Mother's Day. And I think we're taking them both out for dinner today. And I look forward to that. And I hope, Sherry, you get to spend a bunch more Mother's Days with me.
I do too. I'm not going anywhere. Love you, Scott Ross.
Scott Ross. I love Scott Ross.
He lives in Sedona.
I'm going to go there.
Yes, I can't wait.
He's invited us over and over and over. And I don't know if he just is being nice to us, but one day we're going to show up at his doorstep there and spend some days with him. I love Scott from the very first. I remember, there ain't been a lot of people you remember the first time you met him. I remember the first time I met Scott. He is promoting one of Sam's shows, and I've never forgot it, and we became friends then, and we're friends to this day. Now, are we about ready? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
You only have 30 minutes, so you need to get going.
Yeah, it'd be good if I could give him a little word. I don't ordinarily take a question and make a lesson out of it, but this particular question I got this week, and I really have to explain this. I think it was last week or the week before, I quoted a passage or a poem or whatever it was, but at the end of it, and it was from a very, very close friend, Roxy Wright, that I worked with, and they worked in our church in Rockford, worked in Sherry's mom and dad's church in Rockford, and we had a very close relationship, and she had posted something, and at the end of this, it just stuck out to me, and I believed it so much that I quoted it to you. And the quotation was, if you can't see God in all, you will not see God at all. And I thought, that was fantastic. You know, our problem of understanding usually comes from how we've been programmed in the past. I didn't come into this world and grow up. Well, maybe I did coming into this world, but I didn't grow up loving people. Just the opposite. By the time I was in my teens, I didn't like many people. And I had a lot of rage. And I had a lot of anger. And I liked to fight. And I got in fights frequently. I wasn't a people person. Actually, I have some school friends that I went to school with that watch our program, and they could probably verify that. But you have to be deprogrammed to be reprogrammed. And it's hard. It's very hard to do that. When you've been taught something, especially from a source that you trust, church, minister, it's very hard to deprogram that. But when you come to truth, that's exactly what you have to do. So I got a message from a young lady, and I'm not arguing with her. It's not like that at all. She was not arguing with me. She made a statement that she wanted me to explain, and I'm going to try to do that. She heard our program either last week or week before, and she sent me a thing, and she said, I don't know how I would ever see God in someone who, for instance, harms a child. And I'm reading it word for word. This can't mean I won't see God at all, but what does it mean? Okay, and I thought that's a legitimate question. Thought that was a legitimate question. And I thought just a few short years ago, seems like just recently, but it's been actually a few years now, there was a man named Stephen Paddock who shot and killed 59 people and injured and wounded another 527 other people in Las Vegas. President Trump said that that was an act of pure evil. Pure evil. I thought, what is evil? What is that? To understand evil, you must understand sin. Now this, I'm going to take my time in this because it's very important. You see, the forgiveness of sin has always been the central factor of every religion. Every. I can't think of one. That's not the central factor of it. The forgiveness of sin. What do we mean by sin? When I was a young man, sin was cussing, smoking, drinking, and it even went further in our church, long hair, women with short dresses, and when I say short, if it wasn't down to their ankles, it was short. And it went on and on, all these sins. That was sin. And we were taught that was sin to us. But what do we mean by sin? Many times we accept words like this as having absolute meanings without asking ourselves what we understand them to mean. I would love to ask each one of you individually, what is sin? What simple question? What is sin? And if you think about it, it's very difficult to answer. Sin is defined in the Christian theology as events that occur when a man is out of harmony with God. Now that's how theologians define it. So, taking that definition, sin is a sense of separation, because separation is only in our thoughts. That's the only separation that there is. Hebrews 13:5 says this, "For he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." Now this wasn't just to the believers. This was to everyone. I will never leave you, and I'm never going to forsake you. Ever. Never. Ever. Bill Kinison's definition is this: sin is when a man is unaware of his spiritual heritage and acts at the level of his humanity. I had a person that sent me a message. Actually, they sent it on another person's Facebook. I guess they didn't want me to know who they were. I didn't really care. But they sent it, and they said they couldn't believe I called myself a Christian. That I would say that I thought that my brother Sam, his eternal destiny was not in hell, and went on. This is the second message they sent me. First message, I just ignored. I thought, you know what, there's no way I'm going to get to this person. After he sent me the second one, and it happened to be a man, after he sent me the second one, I did respond. And all I said was, I don't serve a God that is judgmental. I don't serve a God that sends people to so-called hell. I serve a God of love, of mercy, of compassion and forgiveness. That's the kind of God that I serve. When we look at some of these things, you see, when a man doesn't know his true potential, he does a lot of things that are the result of that frustration. The result is what has been called evil. Does that mean that God is not in that person? Yet God said He made every one of us after His image and His likeness. This is starting to get good now. You see, that person thinks that he lives an isolated life. But you don't. You don't. But they think they do. That person's thoughts are self-centered. His entire experience is central to the selfish plane of life. That's why he acts out in the way that he does. A lot of people they'll declare that there is no evil. Well, that's like saying there is no darkness. Of course, there's evil in the world, and there are many people that express evil ways. A darkness is an absence of light. So evil is an absence of good. That's exactly what evil is. Now, this is very simple if you accept it that way. Whenever you find limitations of any kind, you can be sure that somebody taught a child. Let me read to you Luke 18 and 16 and 17. But Jesus called unto him and said, Suffer little children to come unto me and forbid them not. The disciples back then was like the children wanted to come and see Jesus, and they were like, no, he can't be bothered right now. And Jesus heard that. And he goes, no. Suffer the little children to come. For of such is the kingdom of God. Verily I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of God as a little child shall in no wise either enter therein. You see, it's human nature that thinks we live separate from God. That's human nature. That's also human nurture. Now, we've also been taught that. They think they have a life of their own, and really stop and look back on your life. You thought that was your life. It's a life of your own. That you couldn't have plans, purposes, and interests separate from His. If all this was true, it would mean the world's a jungle, and that sooner or later it'll destroy itself. I don't believe that. Jesus didn't believe that. We have been taught, and here's where our problem starts. We have been taught that God is up beyond the blue, sitting on His throne with His big black book, writing in that black book all of our sins and punishing us accordingly. I believed that. I used to believe that. That's how I was raised. That's how I was programmed. Because of that, I lived and served God in fear of His wrath. Not because I loved Him. It was because I was afraid not to love Him. We went to church. Not just me, I think our entire church went there out of fear rather than devotion. How about your beliefs? See, no greater, listen to this statement, no greater sinners exist than those so-called Christians who disfigure the face of God, who mutilate the gospel of grace, and intimidate others through fear. That, in my opinion, is the greatest sinners. Man, that's a big statement. Again, we serve God. A lot of people serve God because they're afraid not to. Mary Magdalene, I want to talk about her for a moment. It's a great example of the gospel of grace. One Good Friday, she watched as the man she loved was tortured in the most brutal and dehumanizing fashion. The focus of her attention, however, was not on suffering, but the suffering Christ. Not just the man up there, but the suffering Christ, who the Bible said, who loves me and gave himself for me. That was in Galatians 2:20. The love of God was a burning and divine reality to her. She would have been buried in history as some unknown hooker, except for her God encounter. Man, I can get excited right now. She had no understanding of church. She had no understanding of religion, no understanding of prayer, no understanding of ministry, except for the sacred man who loved her and delivered himself up for her. Think about that. The truth for which Mary's life has come to stand is that it is possible to be delivered through love from the lowest depths to the shining heights where God dwells. What did Jesus teach? What did Jesus teach? He taught you're not punished for your sins. You are punished by your sins. What you sow is what you will also reap. Boy, that's a big statement. I've never understood, and this has always stood out to me, I've never understood why so-called Christians are so quick to render punishment. Have you ever noticed that? Those people that think they're the most spiritual are the quickest to render punishment. That's always, when I was a young man growing up in church, that has always bothered me. That these people are supposed to be the most loving, compassionate people in the world because they found Christ. And yet they turn out to be the most judgmental, the most critical, and the first ones to kick you out. I can remember my dad kicking people out of the church because they wore wedding rings because we didn't believe in jewelry. Of course, I was very young at the time, but I remember it. Christians. Sin is simply missing the mark or the failure to achieve the goal of perfection. That's what sin is. I met a young man this week. And I won't tell the circumstances. I don't know that he would want me to. But I met a young man. And I knew something was heavy on his heart. And so I asked him. And he said his younger brother had committed suicide 3 weeks ago. And then he told me I was raised Southern Baptist. So you can imagine what they told him about his brother that committed suicide. Not compassionate. Not loving. Pretty much told him that he went to hell. There's nothing you can do. And so I told him, I said, you know, I was raised Pentecostal, which is right next door to Southern Baptist. Very emotional people. Very, what we thought we were the most spiritual people on the earth. We really did. And Baptist folks are pretty much the same way, or Catholics. I mean, you can pick out whatever religion that you want. But we felt that way. My younger brother, Kevin, in 1988 was shot in the back of the head. When the police first came, they determined that it was a suicide. And we went for 6 weeks believing, we never understood it, why Kevin would commit suicide. And being Sam's brother, you know, it was in all the papers and everything else that comedian Sam Kinison's brother committed suicide. 6 weeks later, the detectives called me down to their office there in Tulsa, And they informed me that they were wrong and that it was a homicide, and they told me all the reasons why and all the evidence that pointed towards a homicide. I got to be honest with you. I felt better when I thought he took his own life, because I didn't want to think of someone coming into the house, putting a gun to the back of his head and taking him back to the back bedroom and pulling the trigger. What thoughts must have went through his mind on that short journey. Experiencing that, I started asking myself some questions. And I thought, if I was God, and I love my children more than I personally could love my own children and grandchildren, which I don't even know how that's possible, but the Bible said God loves us more than we could possibly love our own children. I have the power of creation. And I know the end from the beginning. In other words, I know how you're going to end up before you're ever created. The question that I asked myself was, would I still create Ginger? Would I still create Scarlet or Little Finnegan? The answer, very honestly, is no. Not if, and I didn't understand why, if he did all this and he loved us, why he would create a garbage can called hell, a place of torment, in a place where time never ends, throughout, you can't even say throughout eternity, because there's no time element. And the more I thought about it, I thought, no, that's not what God does. He loves us. He loves us. Then I read a scripture in the Bible, and it was David. And it was God talking to David and telling him, I will not allow my Holy One to remain in hell. Folks, anyone that takes their own life, they've been in hell. Don't send them to hell. They've been in hell. God loves every one of us. God is in all of us. You see, the punishment of sin is that we have cut ourselves off from the source. And it's led to lack and limitation. I want to give you one last scripture, Habakkuk 1:13. It says, Thou art of purer eyes, talking about God, than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. So God doesn't even see this. What we get so stirred up about, and what we get so condemning about, and so judgmental about, since his eyes are too pure to behold. This might be hard to accept because of the idea of God sitting up in that sky, looking down at us and changing his attitudes about us, rejoicing in our progress, angered over our weakness. Then I understand why this is a little hard for you to accept. One thing we do know, we don't comprehend the love of God. It's beyond our comprehension. But many of us don't know our God, and we don't understand his gospel according to grace. For many people, God is like Buddha. He's impassive. He's unmoving. He's hard as flint. We haven't grasped the truth in the first letter of John, in which it said, in this love, not that we loved God, but he loved us, and sent his Son to be the propitiation of our sins. I want to leave you with just a few little quotes. God does not prefer and promote suffering and pain. He doesn't do it. doesn't know darkness. Light is. God doesn't know sin. God is. If God is love, then he can't be anything else but love. God is love even when I'm filled with hatred. God is still love. God is love even though I'm angry and bitter. God is still love. The moment I release my bitterness and I rise above my guilt and I stop feeling sorry for myself, in that moment, God is love sweeps through every part of my being. But that's what has always been. I just haven't accepted it. So, when I say, until you can see God in all, you won't see God at all because you're limiting your vision of the God, you're limiting your vision, limiting your vision of how much God loves everybody. I want to say before we leave, well, I think we did mention happy birthday to Marcy Friedman, one of my favorites. Chris Kyer used to be our resident director. I don't know where he went. That's my little Finnegan. Scarlett and Colleen, a very close friend of the family, Colleen, and my granddaughter Scarlett, their birthdays were yesterday. And Scarlett was 9, and I'm not going to tell you how old Colleen was because she may not appreciate it. But we'll just say she was 39 again, a few times.
I think Chris is 39 too. Yeah,
well, Chris has been 39 ever since I met him. Finnegan, you want to come up here with Papa? Say hello? Come on.
Go say hi.
Come on. Come on. They all want to see you.
Go say hi.
Come on. Come on around here. I'll pick you up. Oh.
Say Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, tell them. Come on now. Tell them Happy Mother's Day. All right. Well, this is my grandson, Finnegan, and he ordinarily is not shy or bashful, but I guess the cameras get to him. And you're going to be 3 in August. It's going to be your birthday, isn't it? Yeah, in August. Now, you're going to say Happy Mother's Day? Yeah, Happy Mother's Day. I love you. All right, God love every one of you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time of gathering. I thank you for this time of teaching. I ask that you cause these words to settle in our heart. I ask that you touch Paul Henderson's family. I ask that you touch Patrick Bagden. Bring him through with victory. I ask that you touch every person that needs a healing today, that needs a blessing today, that needs a touch from you today. I ask that you cause that God within them to rise up and give them the power to change their lives. Now give you all the praise. Amen. God loves you. Finnegan loves you. I love you. And Sherry loves you.
And next week maybe Finn. He's got a dinosaur shirt on, but you've got
yeah, don't touch his dinosaur. You know what? I got to wear that dinosaur shirt. Maybe I will next week that Diana Baker sent to me. We'll both wear dinosaur shirts, huh? Yeah, there they are. There's your dinosaur shirts. All right, I love you. We'll be back here next week. God love you. God bless America.